Hey, Spider Nerds, welcome to the SpiderNerd.com podcast. I am Jonathan, your host and webmaster, and joining me today for the podcast is Mr. James Markin.
Sup, dudes?
What's up with you, James? What you been up to this week?
Just right now getting over a massive hangover after going out with some friends last night to the bar.
Because that's totally something you share on a podcast.
Well, what can I say? I like to keep it real.
There's we have a full disclosure policy on this podcast. Whatever happens, it stays on the internet now. So
hey, you're the one who asked me how my day was.
True, but you didn't have to be fully honest. But I don't care.
But I was just joking for people. I actually went to church. I studied for the Gee Whiz cool exam.
You know, do you actually go to church?
No comment.
Okay, never mind.
Because I don't want to offend anybody, because if I give an honest answer in this podcast, I know I'll offend somebody because of their religion or whatever, so I'm just going to answer no comment.
All right, then. That's probably the safest way to go. As for myself this week, what have I been up to? I've been up to absolutely nothing. Oh, well, I am a little bit pissed off right now because a research paper that I spent a whole weekend on, yeah, my teacher gave me a C on it, a solid C, 75%. Not happy about that. Not happy at all. But of course, that teacher's a heinous bitch. So I hope that one day down the line, when like we're famous in Hollywood or whatever, someone will like listen to this podcast and it'll be her, and she'll say, "He's talking about me, isn't he?"
Yeah, because the Spider-Man podcast is going to get you so world famous, dude.
I know. It's like I can't even fathom how famous we're going to be in about 10 years. For anyone who doesn't know, that is referred to as sarcasm. It's one of my many, many strengths. That was also sarcasm.
Wow, I did not know that.
Shut up.
That's my sarcasm.
All right. Well, tackling news now, we've got a few bits of Spider-Man news to talk about this week. First bit of Spider-Man news to talk about this week is that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 early reviews for the movie are coming in, and they seem to be fairly positive. A lot of them are stating that the film has tonal and plot issues, but overall it's a good film that we're not going to be able to dislike. So my thoughts on this news, really, I'm getting more excited for this movie. I mean, what do we have now? 3 weeks until it comes out? I think that's about what it is. But the UK only has like 4 days until it comes out, you lucky sons of dogs. I didn't want to swear there. But, yeah, I have to say, these early Amazing Spider-Man 2 reviews are actually getting me more pumped for the movie. I'm actually really getting excited for it. So, James, what are your thoughts on the early reviews for The Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Most of them are positive, which are a good thing, because, because that means a lot of people are enjoying the movie. It's not like one or two critics enjoy it, and the other people are like, it's going to be a masterpiece because it's going to be a cult classic or any bull crap. Because majority of them are enjoying it, so hopefully that means that when people go to the movie theater, the normal, people who are not critics, they will enjoy it too. And only like one really negative review I saw was on IGN, but they give anything that's not a Marvel studio or Batman movie a negative review anyway, so what's new?
This is not my joke. I stole this from somebody else, but you can't spell ignorant without IGN. So, there you go. But, yeah, I don't listen to IGN at all because I think they're full of shit, really. I don't think they have any idea what makes a good movie. So, well...
I mean, you don't like their interviews where it's mostly just kissing the ass of whoever the comic book writer or the movie writer is? Oh, I just love your work. I just love your work. That's not a question. Just say repeating over and over again, do you love the person's work?
Yeah, it's... IGN, I don't mean to bash, but you know what? Not a big fan of IGN. But other sites that we've seen giving positive reviews to Amazing Spider-Man 2, Comic Book Movie, of all people, is actually giving the film 4.5 out of 5 stars. And for anyone who doesn't know, Comic Book Movie was not a big fan of the first movie, at least I think. I might be getting that mixed up with another site. But I'm pretty sure Comic Book Movie didn't like the first one. So I feel that with the fact that they really are liking the second one, I think we've got a lot to look forward to with this movie. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, the only Spider-Man movie I can remember ever getting a really bad review online is Spider-Man 3 before release, and, well, no comment to that one.
Well, Spider-Man 3's not that bad.
I like it. Like I said, it's one of my favorite Spider-Man movies because there is some elements of it that are, okay, there's a lot of elements in it that are bad, but I chalk it up to it's so bad, it's good, and the good parts are really good.
It's so bad, it's good. I've never looked at it that way, but you know what? I mean, I give Spider-Man 3 a B- or a C+. Probably whatever's in between that, even though I know there is nothing in between that. But, you know, if there were to be some grade in between a B- and a C+, that's what I would give What?
C+ and a half.
C+ and a half. There we go. Yes, I would give Spider-Man 3 a C+ and a half. But Amazing Spider-Man 2 getting fairly decent reviews. But they are mentioning tonal issues and a little bit of jumping around with the plot a bit. So do we feel that maybe this could be like Spider-Man 3, or do we have full confidence in this movie?
Well, we got 3 villains, one of them who's a Harry Osborn Green Goblin.
Yes, that is true, but
Gwen's in the movie.
What did you just say?
And Gwen's in the movie.
Yes, we will talk about that later.
But there's some things where the plot doesn't like a jump. Like I read someplace that they talk about him going to ESU and they talk about him going to the Bugle, but you never actually see him in those places. It's just like a one-off line of, yeah, I got to deliver some photos of Jonah and stuff like that.
Well, that'd be a nice continuity reference, if anything. It'd be a nice universe-building thing. I think do we think Jonah Jameson is ever going to appear in the Amazing Spider-Man movies?
I think they're going to save him for the 3rd or 4th one, and it's going to be a J.K. Simmons cameo.
Oh, that'd be sweet. I love J.K. Simmons.
It's got to be, because he is Jonah. I mean, he's the voice of almost every Spider-Man cartoon since he was cast in the Raimi films, I think. Every video game, everything is him, Jonah. It's like people see him and they think J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons is perfect. But, overall, we're getting pretty positive reviews for Amazing Spider-Man 2 so far. Not too many people are displeased with it. So, I think that's going to getting us fairly amped up for the film and hoping that we're going to enjoy it. Let's see. I'm going to see it on May 1st. I know that because I know my cinema's doing an early showing the night before.
I think mine's doing the same thing too. If not, it's a midnight premiere, but whatever. I'm going to be there.
Yeah, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there first showing, first chance I get in the cinema. I will be there, even if it's not my local cinema. Whatever cinema has the earliest showing, I will be there.
My sister wants me to drag her to that showing because she has a friend in the UK who I guess got to see it. Also got to see an early bird ceiling because she worked at the movie theater over there, so they got to see the movie even in advance. So there's some people who even seen the movie now, and her friend's giving it a big raving review. So now my sister really wants to go see it.
Oh yeah, I mean they showed the world premiere of the movie in London this past Thursday, so a lot of people have already seen it around the UK, and pretty much a lot of people who are seeing it are fairly positive towards it. And I gotta say, this is just a random aside, but good on Andrew Garfield for what he did at the premiere of Amazing Spider-Man 2, bringing those kids from that charity or whatever. I really like that. Just good on him for doing that.
He just seems like a really nice guy, Andrew Garfield. It's like if I ever met him in real life, it's like he seems like somebody I could hang out with.
Oh yeah, totally. He's totally the guy who he could be your neighbor. It's like
no disrespect to Tobey Maguire, I kind of got a sense of, okay, Spider-Man was just a role to him, and he was doing other things, and he had other things he cared about. Where with Andrew Garfield, he seems to believe he's Peter Parker almost, to a sense, with some kids when he does charity work and stuff like that, and appearing at Comic-Con in the suit.
One thing that I've noticed with Andrew Garfield is that in a lot of times in interviews, when he's talking about the role of Peter Parker, like he's talking about Peter Parker in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, he'll refer to Peter as I not as Peter, like he himself is Peter Parker. So I can actually kind of see where you're coming from with that statement, because that's something I've noticed throughout multiple interviews that I've watched with him, is that he'll refer to Peter Parker as himself and not as Peter.
Yeah, because like I don't know what you mean, because like you'll see just in featurettes, even for this movie, you'll see like them saying like, well, Electro will do this, Jamie Foxx would say, or Gwen would do that, for Emma Stone. But he's like, yeah, I'm on a building. I did this. I did that.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. But final thoughts on the early reviews for The Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Any good reviews is, well, good news to me. That means people are enjoying the movie, and hopefully it will live up to all the hype now that the UK is giving it with all the good reviews.
All right, that's good. And my final thoughts are, I'm getting pretty amped up for this movie, and I kind of wish May 1st or May 2nd, whenever, would just get here already, because I want to see the gosh darn film. But our next news topic is that the Sinister Six spinoff film has officially gotten a director. The Hollywood Reporter has managed to get some inside scoop on the upcoming Sinister Six spinoff film. Drew Goddard, who was rumored to be the director when the film was initially announced back in December, has been officially confirmed to be the director of the Sinister Six spinoff film. No word yet on who the members of the Sinister Six are going to be, but we do know that we do have an official director for the movie, so it is probably going to happen. So James, do you have any experience with Drew Goddard's work?
I'm currently looking it up on Wikipedia. He wrote Cloverfield, which is the big monster movie that came out like 5 years ago that I actually kind of enjoyed, but it got mixed reviews.
I've heard bad things about that movie.
I liked it. It's just when you leave a movie theater and there's like throw up all over the place because half the moviegoers threw up because it was like being on a roller coaster. Yeah, that's not really a good movie experience.
Yeah, I didn't need that image in my head.
Well, he's also going to be, according to Wikipedia and his IMDb page, he's doing the Daredevil Marvel Studios Netflix series.
Which I know nothing about. I know it's going to exist, but I know nothing about any of the Netflix series.
Basically, the characters who they don't think are good enough to get a movie, even though Daredevil had a movie and a sequel before. And characters like Luke Cage and Daredevil, characters who they don't think are good enough to have their own solo movie, they're pointing on these Netflix specials and miniseries. And then once they get them all together, they're going to form the Defenders team up movie or New Avengers or something like that movie. That will be Netflix exclusive also.
Okay. Well, now I'm actually a little bit informed on that. But in terms of my thoughts on Drew Goddard directing the Sinister Six spin-off film, I have no experience with him. I haven't seen any of his work, at least not that I know of. So I don't really have any experience with the guy. So I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing. But you know what? I'm willing to give the guy a chance, and ultimately I'm just going to keep an open mind to it. And I'll hope that the Sinister Six movie is good, because ultimately, I mean, a lot of us are anxious about a Sinister Six movie because it's like, oh, well, is it going to be a reverse Avengers? Is it going to be, is it just going to be a complete train wreck? Which it's probably going to be a complete train wreck, I'll be quite honest with you.
It depends on who they get to be the Sinister Six.
Yeah, let's look at our roster so far. We've got Lizard, Electro, Rhino, and maybe possibly the Green Goblin. Maybe.
I think Norman's pulling the strings of he might be the seventh guy. Like, they're the six players and he's the head coach kind of deal.
Yeah, it's like he's the military leader, and then they're the troops that go into battle. That is a very plausible theory, but it's just who else would be the other members of the Sinister Six? I don't think we could have Doc Ock be in the Sinister Six if Norman's going to be the leader, because I could see.
I think he is, though, because it's in Oscorp, the tentacles.
I mean, I see where they're coming from with it, but it's like you would just have that whole thing of, well, it wouldn't be very in character for Doc Ock to just allow Norman to boss him around.
Well, yeah, then you had that struggle of they're all rebelling against Norman because they all have their own ego and their own way they want to do it, and Norman's going like, no, do it my way.
I mean, that could be an interesting story. I'm going under the assumption that everyone is just going to willfully work for Norman, but, I mean, if they do it that way, then I could see it working. But, I mean, do we have anyone who we really want to see in the Sinister Six film?
I not really anybody, because I don't really want to see this film.
Yeah, the Sinister Six film, I mean, there have been a lot of comparisons made to the Superior Foes of Spider-Man series, the comic book series, in this movie. I have to say there's no way they're going to be able to manage what they do with Superior Foes in this movie.
Yeah, if it's A-list villains and Norman running it, I got more of a Norman when he was running the Thunderbolts kind of feel that he's going to have them doing like a Black Ops mission to get ready to get Spider-Man or something like that.
Once again, James is making a reference from the 2000s, which is my weak spot, so I'll just go along with what he said there. And ultimately, yeah, this Sinister Six movie, it could be interesting, but it could also be an absolute train wreck. It's probably going to be the latter, so I'm not holding out much hope for it. But you know what? If they manage to do a good job with it, then I'll be on full support of it, and I'll be behind it. So, final thoughts on Drew Goddard directing the Sinister Six film?
Hope he does good, and if not, let's hope it doesn't ruin his Daredevil thing.
Yeah, let's hope at least this or his Daredevil thing are good. Preferably both, but yeah.
Well, his Daredevil thing's Marvel film, so it's automatically going to be good. Okay.
All right. And our next piece of news today is that another thing tying in with the spin-off films is that the Venom and Sinister Six spin-off films will come before The Amazing Spider-Man 4 comes out. Now, Thomas was originally going to be here, so I was originally going to have him read this news article and describe it for us, but ultimately he canceled at the last minute. Slag him. But, yeah, so basically, Matt Tolmach discussed the future of the Amazing Spider-Man franchise after Mark Webb's departure after the Amazing Spider-Man 3, and he said, before we know what we do with Spider-Man 4, we're going to do Sinister Six, Venom, and Spider-Man 3. There is going to be a lot of crossover in those movies, so we're not just at Spider-Man 4, because we still have a whole other Spider-Man movie, and two other movies. So we don't know what Spider-Man 4 is going to be yet. So ultimately, Tomac went on to state that May 4th, 2018, originally speculated to be The Amazing Spider-Man 4, will be a Spider-Man film, but not necessarily an Amazing Spider-Man film. So basically, they've said that Amazing Spider-Man 4 is not really a priority, and they are focusing on the two spin-off movies first. So, James, thoughts on this interview?
I just don't get why they're focusing more on these spin-off characters instead of Peter. It's like they're trying too much to create their own Avengers line when they don't have to.
Oh, they're utterly doing that. There's no denying that they're doing that. They are more focused on universe building than they are on making a good trilogy.
Because they're like, well, Spider-Man 4, we may get... It almost reads off as, we may get to that. It just depends on how the spin-off movies do, because that's going to tie into them.
Yes, because we don't even know what Spider-Man 4 is going to be yet. We just know what Spider-Man 3 is going to be. So, ultimately...
I don't even know how you can say that when it's clearly this movie and the second movie have this ongoing Peter trying to figure out the mystery of his parents, maybe Uncle Ben's killer, you got the Oscorp stuff. And now we're getting told that there is no end game for that. It's kind of like the Clone Saga all over again, where it's like, we'll get to the ending when we get to it, but right now we don't even know we have any ideas for it yet.
Well, do we think that maybe this main story is going to be wrapped up in Amazing Spider-Man 3, and then Spider-Man 4 is going to be something completely different? I mean, I've been speculating that Amazing Spider-Man 4 could be like a few years later.
It could be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a plausible... I mean... I think it's a plausible theory, but, you could still have Andrew Garfield sign on, because then even he would probably look more his age, like more the age that the character is supposed to be than he probably does now. That's not an insult to Andrew Garfield or anything, it's just human beings age, it's a natural thing, not blaming him for it, so no one take that out of context.
Not like mid-30s-year-old Peter Parker in the Raimi trilogy, just in his first year of college.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyways, just to wrap it up a little bit, what you said, I can see that, but only if Amazing Spider-Man 3 has him in the black suit, and then Venom either forms at the end of that movie, or he fights Venom in that movie, and then he thinks Venom's dead or something, and then you get the little cameo scene that says he's still alive, and boom, Venom next year.
I prefer the first option where he gets the black suit in Amazing Spider-Man 3 and Venom forms at the end of the movie, and then Amazing Spider-Man 4 or the Venom spinoff or whatever is him fighting Venom. That I would prefer, because ultimately we've seen in Spider-Man 3 that you can't do Venom in just one movie and have it work. We've seen that already. So ultimately I think Venom needs to be a multiple movie arc rather than just a singular movie story, because you really can't give enough time to both Spider-Man, Black Suit Spidey, and Venom in just 2 hours. You really can't do it. But of course, Spider-Man 3 had other problems that ultimately hindered the Venom storyline. But ultimately, we're not even going to get into that, because this is not a Spider-Man 3 podcast. This is a Spider-Man general podcast. But, yeah, so I guess final thoughts on the Venom and Sinister Six films coming before Amazing Spider-Man 4?
It just reads off as, we want to build our own universe, and we don't really know what we got. You can't start this story and not know what your end game is, or you're going to end up with something that's completely ruined. You got to at least have an idea of what you want to be your end game.
Yeah, kind of like, I don't know why you said the Clone Saga. For some reason, I don't know why I said that, or I don't know why I thought this, but my immediate thought was when you said, oh, starting a plot and not knowing how we're going to end it, my first thought was the old Hobgoblin plot in the 80s, where they had no idea who the Hobgoblin was going to be until about 50 issues after he was introduced.
No, Roger Stern knew.
Well, yeah, but...
And he told Tom DeFalco, who replaced him, that who it was going to be, because DeFalco was going to end the mystery, but DeFalco was promoted up to editor-in-chief before he could do it.
Oh, see, that's not the story I heard. The story I heard was that Roger Stern knew who it was going to be, didn't tell anybody, and then Tom DeFalco just dragged it out long and long and long.
No, because I listened to an interview years ago with another podcast that had Roger Stern, and he said, no, I told Tom DeFalco, or Tom DeFalco said that, yeah, he told me, it's just I never got to it.
All right, then. So, gosh damn it, you're always proving me wrong on my history.
And then anybody who was, people thought that, okay, that's who DeFalco was setting up to be the Hobgoblin. He said, no, those are all just going to be red herrings for when I was going to introduce who Roger Stern always planned it to be, who we all know now it's Kingsley.
Damn it, you're always one-upping me on Spider history. I really got to beef up on that.
Read a book. No, it's joking.
All right, but yeah, so my final thoughts on this news story are basically I hope that everything works out, but if they don't even know what they're going to do with Spider-Man 4 yet, then I don't have high hopes for it. But honestly, I'm not too worried about that at this point. Right now, I'm really focused on Spider-Man 2, because that's the movie that's coming out in about 3 weeks. So that's the movie I'm really focused on right now, so I'm not really concerned with this Sinister Six spinoff, this Venom spinoff, Amazing Spider-Man 3, or Amazing Spider-Man 4. I'm just focused on Amazing Spider-Man 2 right now. Alright, so speaking of Amazing Spider-Man 2, we have 2 new TV spots for Amazing Spider-Man 2, and the reason these aren't going in the spoiler section is because ultimately there's really nothing spoilery in them, because really there's like no new footage whatsoever. So we'll just give our thoughts on the TV spots here. I guess the first one we'll talk about is the minute-long one. So James, what are your thoughts on this TV spot?
I liked it. I saw it during WrestleMania weekend. They aired this promo a lot because obviously WrestleMania being like the Super Bowl of wrestling, it's going to get a lot of ads for like movies for the summer and stuff like that. I liked it. It had a lot of, like setting up Harry and the origin of Electro kind of a little bit. So, but it's nothing really that we haven't already seen. It's got a little bit more of Harry, manipulating Electro in a few shots, but that's about it.
I have to say, I love the shot where Harry's like, I want you to make Spider-Man bleed. I was like, holy shit, man. That was scary.
That is classic Goblin.
Because, dude, the way he says it is just so sinister and creepy. He's like, I want you to make Spider-Man bleed. It's like, holy shit, bro. I do not want to be around that guy.
And I gotta admit, I had a complete and utter fanboy moment when you see Harry come down on the glider, kidnap Gwen, and then you got the shot of him dropping her. Because that is the night Gwen Stacy died. So you did have a moment where it's like, oh my god! When I saw that in the trailer.
Goblins are not able to resist blondes. But, yeah, I have to say I really like this TV spot. It's probably my favorite TV spot that we've seen so far. Not my favorite trailer, but my favorite TV spot. Like I mentioned, my favorite moment was definitely the part where Harry says, I want you to make Spider-Man bleed. That was creepy and sinister in all the right ways. And just the look on his face during that was absolutely terrifying. But other than that, there's not too much new footage in this. But the one thing I also liked with this trailer was Aunt May once again giving Peter advice, saying every decision you make affects the people you love. I feel like she's indirectly like just trying to give him advice about, the whole thing with his promise to Captain Stacy. I really liked that. That felt, once again, that was Aunt May being sort of this voice of reason type of character, and I think that's a good role for her. It's definitely better than what she was in the Stan Lee run, this blithering old idiot woman that just was scared of Peter's, stubbing his toe or whatever. So, yeah, I really think that this is a good role for Aunt May, and ultimately I really like that ending shot. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it, James, but I felt that was pretty good.
I already commented on it, how it was a fanboy moment.
No, not that part. The Aunt May speech.
Oh yeah, the Aunt May speech, yeah. Because this is really like JMS era Spider-Man, how he made her more the voice of reasoning, how JMS said it best, the spider bite gave him his powers, but Aunt May gave him his strength kind of deal. And I kind of liked it how she is the voice of reason. It's not the, like you said, Steve Ditko, John Romita era, where it's like, oh, Peter, bring your umbrella because there's one cloud in the sky, and if it rains with that one cloud, you can get sick because you're so fragile, and if you get sick, I will just die of a heart attack.
If you stub your toe, I will die of a heart attack.
That got really, really annoying fast. Of, oh my god, if I'm 5 minutes late home, Aunt May will suspect I'm Spider-Man, and the shock will kill her. What?
What got really, really annoying really fast was Aunt May constantly being in the hospital every damn issue. That got annoying really fast, but
well, it's the Green Goblin issue where like Peter goes to the doctor, and then the doctor's like, "Your aunt can't take no excitement, Peter, but don't worry, you guys live peaceful, quiet lives." It's like, do you live with his aunt? I mean, if Peter just sneezes because he was cleaning out the attic, she freaks out that he's dying.
Yeah, but I still, I mean, that's not to trash the Lee Ditko Romita era, because that's actually my favorite era of Spider books.
It's good because of the time it was in. That is the doting old aunt, and it's to build up the whole, she thinks her nephew's so weak and fragile, but in reality he's a big superhero.
I mean,
it's just when you get to like Brand New Day and even the Mackie reboot, how they had to immediately take Aunt May after she evolved to this level of she knew the secret, she could handle herself, she was Peter's voice of reasoning. And then it's like, nope, reboot. She has to be back to being old, scared of Spider-Man, and all that stuff.
Yeah, but Brand New Day is a pile of shit. But I guess we'll just do final thoughts on this TV spot.
Yeah. I liked it. The Green Goblin part, like I said, a fanboy moment as you can get. The Aunt May speech is pretty good. The other shots are nothing really new, so I can't really comment on them. Go back and watch our other podcasts for how I felt about them.
All right, and my final thoughts on this TV spot are: it's good. I don't really have any problems with it. And once again, I want you to make Spider-Man bleed. Holy shit, that's scary. I'm pretty sure I'm lucky I didn't have nightmares about that. But
dude,
yeah,
just give me nightmares now, just you reinciting it.
Yes, because I'm that scary. But I gotta say, we got one more news topic this week, and that is yet another new TV spot for Amazing Spider-Man 2. This is the 32nd one, and this one is actually the first reference to Harry as the Green Goblin. Once again, not too much new footage in this. There's a bit of Spider-Man jumping over a pole. That's actually kind of cool. But the main thing that everyone's talking about in this is the Goblin's laugh. I really, really like the Goblin's laugh in this TV spot. It's suitably creepy, yet it feels like it came straight out of the comic book. It's what I imagine the comic book Goblin sounding like when he laughs. I don't know how you felt about it, James, but I felt it was very, very good.
Yeah, it felt really good. Like, I like the one that William Dafoe did in the original Sam Raimi trilogy. That one, ha ha ha. But this one is like classic, like almost like Joker-esque comic book. Evil, maniacal, insane laugh.
Yeah, I really like how they're doing the Goblin's laugh with this movie, and it sounds fairly good. And then our final little bit of this TV spot is the Rhino portion of it, and Spider-Man says, "If you want me to come down there so you can kill me, I'll be right there." I felt that was pretty funny. That was a good one-liner. Once again, I do fear that they are giving away all of their good lines in the trailers and TV spots, but I felt that was a good line. I felt that was fairly strong.
It's Peter Parker. Almost every one-liner quip that he has had since Amazing Spider-Man 1 has been Peter Parker, has been Spider-Man. It wasn't like the Raimi movie where maybe you go like once every movie when I'm having a kind of a joke. This time he does feel like he's quipping, he's making jokes, he's making puns about the villains. He feels like Spider-Man.
Yeah, I gotta say, if there's anything that these Amazing Spider-Man movies are nailing, and they're nailing quite a bit of stuff, but they are nailing the character of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is exactly how he should be. I have no complaints with him whatsoever. Okay, awkward silence. I was expecting James to say something there, but whatever.
I just said no doubt.
Oh, well, see, I didn't hear that because you talked over me, but whatever.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's okay. But that's going to do it for the news topics. So any final thoughts on any of the news topics we've talked about this week?
I can't wait for this movie.
Yeah, I think this movie is going to be fairly epic. I mean, I really, really hope that this movie lives up to the expectations I have. And I don't really have high expectations. My expectation is to go in and enjoy the film. So I'm hoping it can at least live up to that, if anything.
Yeah, because that's what I did with the first movie, because all the suit's terrible, the movie's going to suck, it's not Raimi, it's not Tom Maguire. I went into the first one sitting there thinking, okay, maybe I'll just enjoy it because it's Spider-Man, but I know it's not going to be that good. And I came out thinking, I think that this is one of the best Spider-Man movies I ever saw. So I'm doing the same thing here, where it's a sequel. Sequels are normally not as good as the originals, unless you're The Empire Strikes Back. I'm just going to hopefully that it's good, and then if it blows me away, it blows me away. And if not, well, then it's my expectation for that it was not going to be as good as the first one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first movie when I first saw it, and I got to say, it's like if anyone has ever listened to our very first podcast with me and Ed Jones, where we discussed the Amazing Spider-Man movie, you'll know that I was not a fan of the Amazing Spider-Man movie before it came out, but once it came out and I saw it, I loved it. So yeah, I'm hoping it'll be kind of like, I loved this one before it came out, and I'm going to love it even after it comes out. So I'm hoping that it'll be like that, and I'm hoping to enjoy this movie a lot. So now we will move on to the reviews portion of this podcast. We got 3 issues that we're going to tackle today. We got Superior Foes of Spider-Man number 11, Amazing Spider-Man number 21, and Amazing Spider-Man number 22. And we're going to start off with Superior Foes number 11, because that is the current issue that we're going to be reviewing this week. So we will start off with that one. It's written by Elliot Colon and Tom Pei, art by Carmen Carnero, Nuno Platti, and Steve Lieber. So I guess what I'm just going to do is break the issue down and give a grade on it. What did I like about this issue? Well, I guess I'll just start with my general statement here is this is yet another filler issue of Superior Foes. This is actually the second fill-in issue in a row for Superior Foes of Spider-Man, and I gotta say, I'm actually getting really sick of these. I really wish they would just get back to the main plot, because we haven't seen anything regarding the main plot since issue number 9, and I really wish we could get back to that, because I'm really interested in what the quote-unquote Sinister Six are up to. I felt that they were what made this book so good, and so I'm really missing their characters, and I really want to get back to them. But on a more positive note, this issue wasn't bad for what it was. It just disappointed me because it was a fill-in issue. There were two main characters in this issue, Grizzly and the Looter. I'll start with the Grizzly side of the issue. The Grizzly side of the issue was fairly decent. I felt that the art for the Grizzly story, it was fairly solid. Nobody had any weird proportions or looked like a skeleton or anything. And the style managed to fit the tone of the Superior Foes book. So that was fairly good. I always feel that art should match up with the tone of the book. And that's what the artist managed to do here. I'm not sure who the artist was. It was one of the three of them. I'm sorry. I don't remember specifically who it was. But I did enjoy the Grizzly story for what it was. Again, the whole thing of, replay a tune from their childhood and they'll come running to you. You know, that was kind of clever. You know, Grizzly's not a character that you would expect to be very clever. But you know what? In this issue, he actually kind of was. So I did actually kind of like that a little bit. But overall, there wasn't really much to say about the Grizzly story. As a grade, I'd give the Grizzly story probably a C. It wasn't too spectacular, but it wasn't anything bad either. In terms of the Looter story, I didn't enjoy this one as much, but I felt that it was fairly okay, I guess. My main thing with it was that the backstory was fairly dull and boring, and none of it really kept me particularly engaged in the story. But the main thing I liked about it was its treatment of Spock. They really managed to portray Spock as this horrible, powerful, threatening force to these villains that says, okay, I'm not your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man anymore. I'm going to kill you. And it's very, very, it's very interesting, and I felt that they really portrayed it well. Ultimately, I felt that was probably the best part of the Looter story, in my opinion. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it was fairly decent. The artwork in the Looter story was different than what it was in the Grizzly story. Once again, I liked the artwork. I felt it was solid. No one had any weird proportions or anything. Everyone looked like a fairly decent human being, which is always a plus for me. So everything looked fairly decent in the book, and the in-between scenes with the art drawn by Steve Lieber, who's the main artist on Superior Foes, that looked good. That looked fine as well. Steve Lieber is normally a competent artist, so we don't usually have any complaints with him. The whole idea of the issue, which was Supervillains Anonymous, quote unquote, that's what I've dubbed it. Or I don't know. That might have been dubbed in the issue. I don't know. I don't remember. I might be taking credit for something that wasn't even my idea to begin with. But I really did like the idea of quote-unquote Supervillains Anonymous. I felt it was just a funny idea, and I felt it was overall very good. As a grade, I'd give this issue a C+. So positive to mediocre. It wasn't the best issue of Superior Foes I've ever read, but it was a decent issue of Superior Foes. It wasn't anything spectacular by any means. But you know what? It was good enough. And so I have to say, for a fill-in issue, it was good enough. I am getting kind of tired of these fill-in issues. I really wish we could get back to the main story. But overall, I was fairly okay with this issue. I'm not a big fan of these fill-in issues, but this one was fairly okay, I guess. So C+ out of me. And since James obviously did not read this issue, since he does not read Superior Foes, shame on him, because that's a great series.
Hey, right now my budget only got room for Spider-Man, the main title, and Batman, the main title. That's it, dude. I don't have a job right now. I can't afford 50 different comic books a month.
Damn. Sucks to be you, bro. But I gotta say, so obviously he didn't read this issue, so my grade is just gonna be the solo one. C+ out of me. Thought it was okay. But now we're going to move on to Amazing Spider-Man number, what issue is it, 21? Yeah, it's 21, I think. Yes, it is 21 as I look back at my notes for this podcast. Amazing Spider-Man number 21 is the issue that we are going to be, is the first classic issue that we're going to be tackling today. And so, James, we're going to have you go first. Why don't you break the issue down and grade it?
Which issue?
Number 21.
Number 21. Yes, I will. Just let me pull up my essential. That way I'll remember while I'll read through it again. To remember, make sure everything's going on. Basically, it's a good issue. It begins with Peter bumping into Human Torch and his girlfriend. And the ironic twist is she thinks Peter Parker's a nice gentleman because unlike Johnny Storm, who has the whole secret, well, not really secret identity, but has the whole superhero stick, and she's all like, why don't you ever give up being a superhero? Where she bumps into Peter Parker and pretty much thinks that, hey, this will get him jealous, not knowing that, Peter Parker's really Spider-Man.
Yeah, that was typical 60s irony for you.
It's like, well, I'm going to go on a date with a nice boy who doesn't have a secret identity or a superhero at all, but in reality, it's Spider-Man.
All right, but give me some pros and cons for this issue, James.
It's good. It's got the first time Spider-Man fought Beetle, and even though Beetle didn't start off as a Spider-Man villain, this issue pretty much kicks it into him being a Spidey bad guy. It's got some really cool moments where not only is he fighting with Flash Thompson over Liz Allen, but now he's fighting with the Human Torch over his girlfriend Doris. I can't remember. I got to read back the whole issue to remember her name. It's like Doris something.
Yeah, it's Doris. I think it's Evans.
Yeah, Evans,
Doris Evans.
And she's forgettable because she's like the generic 60s girlfriend for a superhero at the time.
Kind of like someone we know from the Spider-Man books.
Yeah, maybe. And she is so kind of, annoying, bitchy. Why aren't you going to stop being a superhero? The Johnny Storm kind of thing. And it's okay. This issue, it just felt more like a Johnny Storm thing that belonged in his own strange tales that were going at the time than an Amazing issue.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. This issue did not feel like it should have been an issue of Amazing Spider-Man. This issue I felt was very, very out of place, and I'll get to it when I get into my review of it, but ultimately I do have to agree with you on the whole thing of it does feel pretty out of place there. It doesn't really feel like an issue of Amazing Spider-Man. It almost feels like an issue of Marvel Team Up.
A little bit, I'll give you that. There's another thing about this issue is that it's actually pretty good. This begins the Human Torch Peter Parker rivalry / friendship. Where before it's like he only bumped into Peter once, and that was in issue 3, and Peter just congratulated him for a good speech, and he's like, okay, then, not knowing what the hell that was about. And he has already kind of had that whole kind of rivalry thing going on with Spider-Man because they're the two teenage superheroes. But this, with the whole Dory Evans stuff, is setting up, them, even him and Peter Parker not getting along until one day they become friends.
I'm actually going to correct you on something there. But Peter Parker and Johnny Storm also met up with each other in issue number 17 when Johnny gives Peter Parker his autograph. So that's a little trivia point for you. But anything else you liked or disliked?
I meant when they actually, meet, friendly is this issue, not random bumps like that in issue 3.
Oh, okay. But anything else you liked? Anything else you disliked?
Not much. It's just generic Spider-Man teams up with the Human Torch to take on the Beetle, and teenage love drama. This guy likes this guy, but Betty's jealous, so she's going to go out with Ned even though he's in Europe now. And you got this, and it's just love triangle teenage. Stan's trying to write love triangle teenage stuff with Ditko art, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm gonna. So, what's your grade on this issue, James?
Solid C.
All right, that's actually nicer than I'm going to be to it. I'll be quite honest with you. I didn't like this issue. I honestly didn't enjoy it that much. Like James said, it felt very out of place. This issue felt like more of an issue of Marvel Team Up than of Amazing Spider-Man. And I felt that after such a strong issue, last issue with the Scorpion, this was kind of deflating and disappointing. Ultimately, I didn't feel that this issue was very exciting. I felt that it was actually fairly boring, and I felt myself counting the pages until it was over. So anytime I do that while reading an issue, you know it's not normally a good thing because I don't normally do that with issues. So when you find yourself counting the pages, like counting down to the end of the issue, that's normally not a good thing. So I didn't like that. There was definitely too much of the Human Torch in this issue. He definitely took over the issue from Spider-Man and Peter Parker. There was this, like I said, this felt like an issue of Marvel Team Up, but even then, Marvel Team Up Spider-Man Marvel Team Up, a lot of it features Spider-Man. This one felt like it should have been an issue of the Human Torch co-starring Spider-Man and the Beetle. That's ultimately what this issue felt like to me, and I didn't really enjoy that. This wasn't a very good issue of Spider-Man. If this was an issue of the Human Torch, I'd probably grade it more positively, but since this was an issue of Spider-Man, I do have to take points off of it because of the fact the Human Torch does just blatantly take it over, and I didn't like that part of it. Once again, Betty Brant in this issue was absolutely horrible. I hated her throughout the entire thing. She was absolutely atrocious. Once again, it kind of sucked. Oh, well, it sucked a lot, actually. And not in a good way either. Yeah, the only really good thing about this issue was the ending. Once again, we got more typical Parker luck. That was a nice little bit to add into the end of the issue. You know, Spider-Man's thinking, oh, well, will I ever have a good life? You know, will I ever be lucky in life or whatever. That was kind of a nice ending to the issue, but overall, I give this issue a solid D. I didn't really enjoy it that much. I felt that it was fairly boring. The action sequences in it were fairly boring. I didn't really like it that much. And while James might like this, I think the idea of a rivalry between Peter Parker and Johnny Storm at this point is honestly just kind of stupid. It doesn't appeal to me in a way that really gets to me. I think it's just kind of stupid because Johnny Storm doesn't know that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and for that reason, I just find it kind of stupid. I know that's a stupid reason for it, but you know what? I am stupid, so I'm just going to revel in my own stupidity. So, final grade on this issue is a D from me. So, James, any final thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man number 21?
Just a few. I do kind of like the rivalry here of Spider-Man and Human Torch, because it is kind of the personalities clash. Peter's the quipping, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, the nerd, and Johnny Storm is the cool teen superhero idol. Peter, where it is kind of like that in real life. You know, Johnny Storm is pretty much the Flash Thompson of superheroes. He's the teenage dreamboat who's on all the magazines the girls are spooning for, and Peter's getting trashed in every magazine in the country. So it is kind of like Peter probably sees a little bit of he's just like Flash Thompson. He's the bully. He's going to give me a hard time, so just don't give a crap about him right now. And so that's kind of like what they're doing, the kind of styles clashing with the two of them.
I can kind of see where you're coming from with that. I do think that's a plausible argument. I have to agree to disagree with you on this.
Well, it is kind of like funny how you can kind of do that, because even when Ramita comes in and Flash Thompson becomes one of Peter's friends, so does the Human Torch.
Yeah, I mean, the Human Torch and Spider-Man do form a friendship later on, but as do Peter Parker and Flash Thompson. I do understand what you're saying there. I will just have to agree to disagree with you on this. I really just hate the idea of a Peter Parker-Johnny Storm rivalry at this point in the books. I wouldn't mind it later, but at this point in the books, I just really don't like it. It's like, I'm okay with animosity one-sided on Peter's side, but there's no reason Johnny Storm should really even care about this guy. So, other than the fact that he was supposedly spotted with his girlfriend, there's no reason Johnny Storm should care about him. So that just bothers me a little bit. So my final thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man number 21. Not the best issue Lee and Ditko ever managed to put out. In fact, I'd say beside from the ending, the only real pro of the issue was Ditko's art. I always loved the Ditko artwork, but other than that, Amazing 21, a fairly disappointing issue. But next we're going to move on to Amazing Spider-Man number 22, and James, why don't you break it down and grade it for us?
Basically, here's the breakdown. Spider-Man fights the circus of crime. They're kind of breaking up from the ringmaster. Spider-Man fights the Python chick, like Princess Python, or whatever the hell her name is, and he's kind of like similar to the relation we have later with the Black Cat. He wants to arrest her and bang her all at the same time. That's basically it for a breakdown. It's just Spider-Man fights a bunch of clowns.
All right, pros and cons.
Filler. It's not really that good of a story. It's Spider-Man fighting a mob gang of clowns, and it's as bad as it sounds. I mean, he fights a gigantic anaconda while he's trying to get Princess Python's phone number. He's all like, I know I can't trust a female. And then you get the last few pages how you think, okay, now things are going to go well for him and Betty, and Aunt May's mad at him because he was home late.
Yeah, that's typical.
That Parker Luck.
Damn that Parker Luck. But anything else, James?
I read this issue last night to get ready for the podcast, and other than the last page with Aunt May and that he fought the Circus of Crime, I don't remember too much because it's a forgettable issue.
So what's your grade then?
D. Just because the Ditko artwork saves it from being a flat F.
So D for Ditko?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna be a flip of James here. I actually enjoyed this issue. Sorry about that. I actually enjoyed this issue more than I enjoyed the last issue. I thought that this was actually a better issue. I don't know why, but the Ringmaster as a villain and his group of villains, I feel that they are kind of entertaining. I don't know why, but I'm just entertained whenever they come into the books. So I felt that this was a fairly decent issue. Pros, Betty was actually kind of decent in this issue. She was actually a decent character for forgiving Peter and taking care of Mr. Jameson. That was fairly good. Betty is kind of bipolar from issue to issue as to whether or not she's actually a decent, likable character or not. But in this issue, I felt she was good. So overall, I kind of liked that. A con that I had was the action sequence at the end was a bit too long. It took up a good portion of the second half of the issue, and I don't like when action sequences do that. I usually prefer story and plot progression over action. Now, yes, I do realize that action can bring those two things sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't, and I didn't feel that this was a part of it where it did. Like James, I didn't like Spider-Man, basically flirting with Princess Python the whole time. And can I just say how stupid of a name Princess Python is? That's just horrible. Yeah, I didn't really like his interactions with Princess Python. I felt that those were weak and pretty bad. But ultimately, this wasn't too bad of an issue. As a grade, I'd give it a C, a solid C. I'd say it's a mediocre issue, not too bad, but it's better than the last issue. But James, any final thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man number 22?
Just two. With these two issues, I like to joke that this is the beginning of the dark Ditko era, where the books start to go from the first 20 or so, where it's more kind of, classic happy-go-lucky Peter Parker. He has his problems, the Aunt May, the school bullies, but yet it felt more like classic, Spider-Man. And here you get more to the part where Ditko starts to turn to more of his worldviews of everybody hates everybody doesn't get along, everybody grouchy, Peter hates Ned hates Peter hates all the bullies, he hates Harry, he hates Gwen, he hates Betty, hates him, hates Spider-Man, hates Jonah, everybody hates everybody. And this is sort of, especially with the Human Torch issue, that's beginning the whole Ditko making everybody not get along, pretty basically.
That is something I noticed while reading these two issues, is that there's a lot of hate going on with a lot of characters.
Yeah, and my final... Oh, God damn it, what was I going to say? There was going to be one more... Oh, my one final thing is, I know I probably didn't go into much of a review here because it's a forgettable issue, but watch Amazing Spider-Man Classics for their review of this issue. Go back for their cheap plug to their podcast, because they... Especially their Princess Python stick, where they wonder what the hell ever happened to her. And somebody who literally read later issues trust me, she marries the Gibbon. She gets killed her Python gets killed by the Punisher. It gets really weird with this chick past this issue. Trust me, you gotta watch their podcast to find out what the hell happened to this chick.
And am I the only one who thinks that Princess Python has the Betty Brant face? Like, her face just looks like Betty's.
Well, Ditko did reuse a lot of faces.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of artists have a specific way they draw faces, and I guess this is kind of Ditko's.
Yeah, because like if you look at Bagley had the same problem too. If you look at his issues, whether it be Ultimate Spider-Man or his Amazing run in the 90s, every female face has the exact same face, just maybe a different hairstyle.
Yeah, that is something that's noticeable. But I guess final thoughts on this issue in terms of mine. One thing I didn't bring up was I was curious as to why they made the clown the leader of their gang instead of Princess Python, because I felt Princess Python took on a more leadership type of role in them. Like, she was the one who nominated Clown for leader. I don't know why she did that, because Clown ultimately didn't really do jack shit in this issue, so I'm not really sure why he was the leader of the mob after they kind of separated from the ringmaster. But overall, I'm not gonna be too grieved about that. It was just something I noticed. So final grade out of me, a C. So James, any final thoughts on any of the issues we talked about today?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. There's a simple, obvious explanation for why Princess Python couldn't be the leader. See, it's the 1960s, so all the men in the group figured that her place was in the kitchen making them sandwiches while they did the crimes.
Okay. I'm not going to comment on that.
I said it's the 60s. I don't take that point of view now. I don't have that point of view at all. I'm just making a joke that it's the 60s and knowing Stan, because of how the mindset was back then, they probably figured, well, Ditko gave him his artwork where she's clearly the leader, but I can't have a woman lead a mob. Okay, she's going to nominate the clown to be the leader of the mob. Yeah, that's going to be, what everybody wants to read now. Where nowadays, if any writer probably did something like that, they would probably be the most hated writer in all the comics.
Yeah, that wasn't a good thing. But, so C out of me, a D out of James. So that's going to wrap up the classic reviews for this week, as well as the overall reviews portion of this podcast. Now, we're not going to do, I said we were going to do listener questions this week. Once again, we're not going to, because Thomas isn't here again. So, and I'm sure you guys want the actual full panel's answer to those questions instead of just one or two guys. So, we're just going to hold off on the listener questions for another week. Hopefully Thomas will be back with us next week, provided that his parents don't snag him away again or whatever. But I guess that's going to do it for this episode of the SpiderNerd podcast. So, James, final words for the listeners before we sign off?
I got a message on Skype from Thomas. The reason why he's late, because he has a date with that girlfriend of his again. They're back together. Did you hear?
Oh, they're back together? Damn, yeah, Thomas, get some.
They're on a date right now to go see Captain America. She's enjoying the movie, I guess, and hopefully later they'll go out to dinner and have a nice long walk on the beach.
Oh, that's good. I'm happy for you, Thomas. Round of applause for Thomas. There we go. All right. But any other final words, James?
Just not tonight, but tomorrow night. If anybody of the listeners listen to AGR, quick plug, we're not doing it tonight because other people had scheduling difficulties, so we moved the show over to Sunday night. So there. So if you're going to watch AGR, it's on Sunday, not Saturday night. Or tonight.
Is that just for this week, or is that a permanent change?
Just this week. People had other things, like one of the cast member has a girlfriend birthday party to go to, another one has a convention. So it's just better to move everything to Sunday for everybody for this week.
All right. My final words for the listeners are keep checking out the website, SpiderNerd.com. We've got reviews, news, everything going up there. Keep reading Spider-Man, and we'll see you guys next week. And Thomas, get some.